Hello, business little folks. So today, I'm not taking a shift from emailing. There's some things that needed this transition from what I'm recording today, but and we'll then go back to emailing because there's one requirement or one comment for which I have to shift here. But today, what we'll try to understand is how you develop a simple export to Excel in Business Central. Now, let's understand the context of it. When you are in Business Central, and let me pop up my Business Central, and you go to a report somewhere. Let's try to pick a report somewhere in the customers. Okay, there should be a report area, and there should be a statement area, right? So if I give it some random dates and then pick some dates here, okay, and include all customers in this, and this might not be the right report, sorry for that. But if I go and say customer order summary, in a report, you always see this option to send data in Excel. But what we are talking about is a little bit different than doing Microsoft Excel document export as. And there's a slight difference how that works. In today's video, we'll try to understand how you can export the data that you need into Excel into a nice format, and what are the entities that are available in Business Central. And we'll start with very basic as we always do, and if there are complex scenario that you would like to achieve, let us know. If I have seen some of the complex scenario, I'll automatically make videos on it. But if you have something, again, you know the drill, add them into the comment section. I religiously read all the comments and I try to come up with the videos as time goes by. Just one request before we start, that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. For you, it's just one click, but for us, it helps us to understand how we are doing. Are we working on the right directions or not? So just help us there and we'll keep doing that. Okay. So for today's demo, let's assume that we want to export this data, which we see on the screen, into Excel. And let's decide what we want first into an Excel. So we would like to see these captions. So I'll like to see the number, the name as a caption, and then let's say location code, the phone number, and balance, just to keep it simple. Okay. And then we would like to get the respective values which are here into this Excel in this nice looking format. And I know what you're thinking, that oh, Saurabh, why you're wasting time. You should be able to click on this and say open in Excel and dump that data into Excel. The idea of today's video is not to explain you how alternate ways you can export it into Excel, but this is just a beginning. So we are starting pretty basic, but using the video that I'm recording right now, you can go a little bit complex data set scenarios, which then will be useful for the business as they would like to analyze their process into Excel. I'm not saying that there are not other ways, there are other ways, but it's always good to know what what are my options. And then as a developer or as a consultant, you can decide what is the right approach in a situation where you need that data. So there are other ways also, just a reminder. I'm just showing you what else is possible within the base Microsoft Business Central. Okay, so we want something like that, as simple as that. So let's start our Visual Studio Code, and let's start with creating a folder. As you all know, the link of this repo will be available in the first pinned comment. It's available on GitHub for anybody to use. Okay, so what we are doing, and I might be doing more on it, so I'll just create a folder, export to Excel. And let's start creating a report. Okay, and the report will be called SDH customer export. Okay, this coming from table customer. Okay, I should be able to find it. and then uses category as reports. Okay. Do I need fields? Let's do that later. Okay, let's do this finish. Now, just a reminder to everyone, uh, you add fields into your data set if you have to generate a layout for this report. And for this report, I don't need a layout. I just need to run this report and it should generate an Excel file for me. These kind of reports in Business Central are called processing only report, where there is no layout attached to the report, no visual element attached to the report. So you need to make sure that you set this property called what I said. These are processing only report. So the property is called processing only. And let's read through it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. The processing only sets the value indicate whether a report produces a printed output or only processes data. So if you set it to true, that means it does not generate a printed output, but it is used to do some processing that you're doing. Okay. Do we need a request page for this report? No. So let's just remove that completely. Okay. Then maybe I forgot a bracket. So let me set that up. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want first in question, what I want is to generate this header. Okay. So let's create a procedure for that. So let's do a procedure and we'll call this procedure to generate the headers. So we'll call it as create Excel header. Okay. Now to create Excel header, what I need is I need these names, and that's where there is one beautiful object that comes into the picture, which is called as Excel buffer. Okay. No, that went completely wrong. Sorry, ChatGPT. It's a table called Excel buffer. Now, if you are on pre-BC 17, BC 18 version, if I'm not wrong, this and this is still an actual table. Okay. The best practice whenever you are referring to a Excel buffer table or any other buffer table in Business Central, that you should always set them to temporary. They are not supposed to store data. And when this is temp, I'll also have to add the word temp here. Now this table is pretty important or interesting because what it does, if you look at it, it gives you an option to set the row number, the column number, and a cell value as text, which is limited to 250 characters. It allows you to add comments, formulas, allows you basic formatting of bold, italic, underline. For numbers, you can format numbers. You can actually have formulas. If I see here, formula 2, 3, and 4. There's a cell type option. We'll see that, what that is. Double underline, cell value as blob, which I have no clue what this does. We'll see that. And then the system fields. The idea is that any data that I want to into Excel, I need to insert it into this table, and then this table have methods available which allows us to export that data. So if I go into this table, other than fields, which we have already seen, what you'll notice that there are so many methods like copy sheet, delete worksheet, get sheet count, enter cell by cell name, and then all other functions, create new book, create book, and get value by cell name. So there are multiple ways and multiple functions available which will help our journey to export this data into Excel. The one important function that you'll be using very often while you're using this uh, table is add column. Now add column kind of adds that column into this table, okay, which allows you to pass a value. uh, will ask you that is it a formula, is there a comment text, is it bold, italics, underline, and what else, number format and cell type. Once you define all these input parameters, it'll then add that record or add that column into the Excel buffer table automatically, so you don't have to kind of worry about it. It'll take care of it. So we'll be adding columns for each and every field that we decided we need into our report in this method. So what are the fields that we need? We need the number field. Okay. So what we'll say is temp Excel buffer dot add column, and we'll follow the drill. The first field here says what is the value that you want for this column. Okay. So the value of that field I want is comes from the customer table, and I'm not using it to get the value, but I'm using it to get the field caption. So whatever the caption of the field in the base Microsoft table, customer table, the system will fetch that for me. And what is that field that I'm looking for is number. Okay. So that sets up my value for that column. The second one, is this a formula? No, sir, this is not a formula. What else? The third one is this a comment text? And then is this bold? It's not a comment, but because it's my heading, I would like it to be bold. Okay. Then is it supposed to be italics? No. Underline? Yes. Okay. I'll put an underline over there. So false and true, it becomes underline. The next one is there a number formatting available, and what is the cell type? So number formatting, because it's a text field, will be blank, and then the number for the cell type, the last parameter here on the add column, will have to use the Excel buffer dot cell type, and then there are some options available here. The first one is, let me do that, date, number, text, and time. These are the 4 options available. In this case, it becomes text. So now you know the drill. So we'll just copy paste this, and we'll just, okay, I think the third parameter 1 2 3 is wrong. What is the third one? It's comment text. Okay, so that should be a single quotes, and that should complete that process. Okay, so the fields that we need is number, name. Okay, so let's replace this with the name parameter. Okay, then we need location code, so I can pass location code, and you're not forced to use the same format as I'm using. If you want some different captions, what you can do is, and I'll do it for the last column, which is balance, I'll say, oh, my value is not coming from the database, I would like to call it balance. Let's say $, or balance, okay, $. This is my value, static value. Whenever this method will call, it'll add 4 columns into the table, and at that point the columns will be added into the table. So far so good. Now the second thing that we have to do, as we are talking about it, is we have to fetch all this data, relative data, to this. So what I can do is I can create another procedure. Okay, and we'll call it create Excel body, and then do a begin end again. Now in this case, we'll call the same method. There's nothing changes on that, and but the parameters of this will change a little bit. So let's do that. In this case, I don't want the field caption, I actually want the number field there. Okay, so what is the value of that customer number at that point will be picked and used. Is it a formula? No, it's not a formula. Comment text is blank. Is bold, which I have set to true. Now I don't want it to be true because it's a value that I'm passing into Excel. Italics I don't want. Is underline also turns to false. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'll just copy paste this so that it's easier for me, and I'll remove the field captions from here. That will make it as a name, and hopefully I had copied from the comma. If I haven't, I'll have to type this in. Yeah, okay, same here. We'll do for the location code, so we'll get the value of the location code at that particular record and paste it here, and same here. Okay, So what I'll do is I'll say customer dot balance. Okay, balance LCY. Let's do LCY. Okay, because we have said balance dollar. Now, people who understand Business Central and who have worked with it for a while, they understand that the balance is not a actual field; it's a virtual field or a flow field that's available because the number that you see on the screen is coming from calculation, in this case from customer ledger entry. So for every calculated field, you will have to calculate it before you use it on a reference. All right. So what we need to do, we'll keep that in mind. But now let's understand one thing. When this func method is called, it adds these four columns. But after these columns have been printed, I would like to add a line break before my new columns get into picture. So what I need to do is I need to call another method for, sorry for that, okay, for new row. So anytime you use this method, it adds a new row and then your column index starts from 1. Okay. So first these four columns will be printed on row number 1 and then a empty new line will be generated, and then on that empty line these four columns will be added, and so on and so forth. One more thing we need to remember, that based on the cell type, your formatting of the text will happen. Now number is a code field, it matches to the text. Same for name is text, location code is text, but balance is not text. If you want a nice formatted Excel, you should make sure that you choose the right cell type, and that becomes my number. So now this will be formatted in Excel in a number way. Okay. So now we have the header and now we have the body. So now what we need to do is we need to call this on the right places in my report so that it then can be referred. So for each data item, there are certain triggers available, right? The first one is a very common one, which is your on pre data item, which executes before anything execute on that data item. What I would like to call there is this method. I'll say do this, which will add the headers into it. Then the other one, which is very important and which repeats itself after every record is fetched, is called on after get record. So for each record that traverses in this data item, we'll call this method. This will only be called once. This will be called for every new record or every record that is found in the customer table. And there I would like to call this method to create Excel body. So we'll generate the Excel body for the record that is traversing. Now remember something which I said earlier, that this is a calculated field. So I need to make sure that this gets calculated before it comes here. I can either do it here or I can either do it here. So if you want, let's do it here. And we'll call it as customer dot set auto calc field, and we'll set it to balance LCY. If you don't know about what this is, or if you use something else, let me know and I'll make sure that we talk about it. Is it the right place to place it? Not exactly. I should have placed it somewhere here. And why on pre-date item? Let me know into the comment section. Pause the video and tell me why I placed it here rather than placing it here or keeping it here. But with this, the data into my Excel buffer table will be initiated, and I'll be able to see this data into my Excel buffer, which you cannot see because this is temp, so this will be removed at the time. But what if I know that I need to use this temp but somebody did not use it? So what you should be doing at this point is on the initialization of report, which is in on init trigger, I guess. What you can do is you can empty any content on your temp email Excel buffer. Email Excel buffer dot delete all, and see where I'm placing it. Oh, I'm placing it incorrectly. I should place it outside this if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So the first thing that will happen when you run this report, this will be called, which will delete anything that is in the buffer reference. Then it'll call the pre-data item, which will call this method and add the header. And then for each record in the customer table, on after get record will be called, which will add the body. So far, so good. It's pretty simple. Now we have the data in the buffer table, but now we need help to export this data out into my Excel file. So what we need to do is let's create a new procedure for that. Sorry for the noise. Okay. So let's create a procedure and we will call it, let's call it create Excel book. Now what we are trying to do now is trying to get all the data that is in the Excel buffer table into an Excel file. That all starts with my temp Excel buffer, not this, sorry. It should be create new book. Now what the new book does, it creates a new book. Why not create book? Let's see. When you use the create book, you get this red sign, which means this is set to be only used if your extension is non-universal compliant or is allowed to use on-prem tag. So what we need to do is we need to call create new book. And then the parameter that it need is what is the sheet name, the Excel sheet name, which is here, like the sheet 1. So what I'm going to do it is demo Excel will be my sheet name. With this command, the sheet will be created. Now the next thing that I need to do is write into that sheet. How I do that? I should be able to find a method to write into sheet, which needs a report header, a company name, and user ID. So let's keep the report header as it is. My company ID becomes my company name, and my user ID becomes my current user ID. So that way, this whatever is into the Excel buffer table will get written into this sheet with these details. Once the writing is done on the wall or on the Excel, what I can do is I can just close the book. That's done. Once it is done, if you don't like the generic name, which may be Excel 1 or so, there are methods also available to give it a nice name. So I can call it as set friendly name, file name, and I can again call it as customer list. Once it is done, what I want to do at this point is open my Excel notebook. I would like to open Excel. What this does, it automatically picks this file, generates this file with this name, and then picks this file and open the Excel for me. But where should I call this method is the question, right? So like we have on a trigger, we will have also one more trigger that is called at the end of your report execution, which is called on post record report, when everything is done. So then what I want is I want to call this method to create the Excel book. Okay. So with this being said, you'll be able to run this report and generate a list of customers. This is just a demo. So what I'm going to do is go into my launch.json, change my startup object ID, and if you don't notice, now there is a startup object type of report. So as soon as I publish this extension, it'll automatically run this report, which is 50,004. When I run this, it should call these methods and should generate a nice, beautiful looking Excel for me based on the formatting that I've done. So let's quickly test it. So as we are running through it, it should get deployed here, and a prompt to kind of run that should be available. So let me see if I can. Where is that? Where is my okay problem area? I don't know. Oh, my shortcuts are not working today. So I'll have to come here and do a publish without debugging. So at this point, it is going into my environment and getting this published. Once this gets published, we should be able to run the report and see how this data look like. Do you think my placement of the set auto Kelsey field will have an impact if I do it here? Let me know into the comments what you feel about it. Why I placed it here? Is there a better place to put it? Is this completely wrong and will not generate any data for balance LCY? Or is it a better way to place it here? Just let me know whatever you feel about it. So what you see here is a customer report that you have just built in. And if you want, you can apply filters into your customer data item here. And then when you click OK, it should download a file for me called customer list, which is coming from the friendly name that we gave it. And now when I open this file, it should pop up into my Excel and I should be able to move this file from my other screen here, which is this, and this have all the details that I needed. Now the balance is formatted as number. Let me zoom this in, and all these fields are formatted as text. And this, that you see this green icon on the number, the reason is because in this case the number field have all the numeric values and Excel is trying to understand that it is a number. Now pay attention to the key details that we have done. On the header we said it's supposed to be bold and there should be an underline, so that's done. On the body we said all flat, nothing bold, and all these are text and this is a number formatting. And then we also gave the sheet name as demo Excel, so it generates that demo Excel sheet. So with this pretty simple code, you can actually generate any kind of data that you have based on your business requirement into Excel so that you can use them for analysis. And as I said in the beginning, there are other ways to do it. And I'm not saying that this is the right way or wrong way because that varies based on businesses. So knowing what are the options available that you have in the product, you will be able to make a better decision if you know all the options. So before I let you go, let's quickly summarize what we did. We utilize the Excel buffer table to generate an Excel file for a data set in Business Central. Anytime we use Excel buffer, we need to make sure that we are referring it to a temporary stage. The first thing that we did is we deleted everything as soon as the report runs from the temp Excel buffer. And for on init of that data item, where we wanted to generate header, we called a method which generated header based on the add column function, which is available in Excel buffer. You can do basic formatting and define the cell type and other things, underline, format, and other things. Then we had another function which allows us to get the data actually and put it into the Excel buffer. Once all the data and the headers are part of Excel buffer, then we call the method to kind of create a book, write into the book, close the book, and then give it a name, and then at the end open Excel, which is called at the end of the report on the post report trigger. So with this simple example, I think you get an idea about how you can use the Excel buffer entity, which is available in Business Central. If you want to see some complex scenarios, just let me know into the comment section. I'll come up with some other scenarios that I know of. If you have a scenario which is causing trouble, again, add that into the comments. You know the drill. If you like the content, do hit the like button. If you think others will it'll add value to other fellow developers or consultant, do share this video with them. And as I said in the beginning, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe it. I'll see you sooner than later with the next video, and we'll see what other possibilities are there in Business Central based on your comments and feedback. So it's your channel, you decide what comes into it, and I'm just here to listen to what your comments are. So see you next time. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.